Welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas, joined in the studio today by Craig Burley and Don Hutchinson. I suppose it had to happen at some stage in this tournament. It was a poor match between the Dutch and the French. It had finished 0-0 in the first goalless game of the tournament so far. The Dutch would score in the second half. That would be the only controversial moment where it was chalked off for offside. But in the end, a point apiece. Both teams should be fine to advance to the knockout stages. Frank Leboeuf is with us to give a French perspective, I suppose, on all of this. It wasn't very good, was it, Frank?
It wasn't perfect, far from there, but it wasn't as boring as you just pretended it's been for you. But I think the first half was pretty good. It's true that the beginning of the second half was like that they made a deal in the dressing room, like the draw would be fine for both teams. But after maybe 15, 20 minutes, France had some chances to score. Then we saw the Netherlands coming back. We're going to talk about that disallowed goal. But at the end of the day, yeah, it's a good point for both teams. Maybe Netherlands put themselves maybe a little bit more in danger, having to play Austria on the third game.
I come in buzzing for this game as well.
Right, and then
all right, I said that was a bit of a stretch.
No,
all right, I came in with
I
came in with a spring in my step.
Well, yes, you came in.
And then primarily because the other two games,
yes,
the teams were like, yeah. But actually, you know, to be frank, the Netherlands aren't really that good a side. There's no real expectations of them in this tournament. Maybe in Holland there is. But realistically, there is not much expectation. But somehow the French made them look an okay side today. And I think that says a lot about how France played. Netherlands have their limitations, but were allowed to stay in the game. And you know, both teams, if they had a bit more quality in the final third, obviously could have at least got themselves a goal. But I thought France made Netherlands look a better side than they actually are.
It was lack of quality from both sides, wasn't it?
Don't worry, mate. I'm with you. Terrible game.
Yeah.
And the reason why it was terrible, because it was predictable. Because Holland's back five for Bruggen in the back four is probably the strongest in the competition. But midfield, front men, they don't look as though they're going to score. They're not a prolific team. France without Mbappe didn't really have a spark. They had no left side today. It was really weird tactically watching the French set up because Rabiot, as a midfield player, seemed to be the widest player. Dembele had an absolute stinker. Every time we got it, we passed it backwards or give the ball away. So I think the reason why it was a boring game is because we knew after 60 minutes, it was going to be a 0-0 draw.
I mean, it was that bad that our colleague, who we absolutely love, Ian Dark,
right,
but he's working somewhere else at the moment,
okay,
for a short period.
It's never good when you start a sentence like that.
Well, it was so bad. He threw out a question. He's going to want this back when he said to his co-com, "Can Holland win this competition?" Yeah. We nearly fell off a chair. The game is so bad. Yeah. He's just throwing that out there. But yeah, it was. Look. Anything that's a 0-0 now is getting the hammer. It's getting the sledgehammer.
What did you make of the disallowed goal?
It was, for me, it was absolutely crystal clear within the laws of the game because to be offside. Because as soon as we saw the first replay, we all went, never in a month of Sundays is this going to... The only thing that surprised me, and it was English officials, because every other decision at this tournament, it's bish, bash, bosh, offside, VAR, fantastic. Unfussy, European referees, let the English boys come in, they're sitting in VAR going, I might get my knuckles wrapped for this. He stood here. If Mike Maignan dives this way, he's going to hit Denzel Dumfries.
So he's interfering with play.
It's for me and you, Don.
The laws of the game is plainly obvious. Denzel Dumfries is standing in an offside position. The goalkeeper, Mike Maignan, sees him. He can't fully dive to his left-hand side because he'll bump into him. Therefore, offside.
Frank, do you agree?
No, I'm not. For the simple reason that if I agree that Dumfries is alongside Maignan, therefore is offside, for me it doesn't interfere because we don't see Maignan trying to go for the ball because the ball goes too fast. Xavi Simons made a screamer and he didn't have the time to react. And I don't see Maignan going for the left side and say, oh, I cannot go because Dumfries is there. I'm blocked. I don't feel that. So it's not clear for me. I hear what the guy says, and it's possible to judge otherwise. And it's why I'm pleased with the decision as a French guy, but I will be a little bit frustrated if I'm a Dutch.
Ronald Koeman, frustrated afterwards, said that the goal should have stood.
It's absolutely pointless asking managers that feel they've been wronged. Absolutely pointless. The laws of the game state if there is any chance that you're interfering, you cannot give it. Right now,
Plus, it was given on the field, wasn't it?
Yeah. The on-field decision was correct. It was the VAR, Stuart Atwell, English VAR, who dithered and dallied about the whole thing, and then that's why we're all waiting. But look, if he's a couple of yards away, a goalkeeper makes a really fast goalkeeper makes a split decision on the shot and he gets down. You can see what he does. Yeah. He does it, and then he sees the player and he stops. Yeah. He's always going to be offside.
France, obviously, without Kylian Mbappe, Frank, is it just lazy to say that with him they would have won this?
Not sure about that. I mean, the decision of Didier Deschamps was pretty crucial today where, you know, in reality, he played with three defensive midfielders. Rabiot is more defensive midfielder alongside Tchouaméni and Kanté. So I didn't expect too much offensively. And that's clear that France is struggling right now, finishing actions. Dembele, yeah, every time he touches the ball, it's like, ooh, something is about to happen. Oh, almost. That's his nickname, almost. It's always almost. Nothing happens, you know. It's always, oh my God, almost. That's what it is with him. And I'm getting frustrated with him because the talent that he has, he cannot finish an action. And he has one shot when he put over the bar. You just have to put your right foot with his left foot, the inside foot to score. And he tried to smash it and put it over the bar. And I said, that's not clever. And it's always almost. So Mbappe could have done maybe better in that specific action, but I'm not even sure because I think Deschamps tried to secure the middle of the park with Rabiot, Tchouaméni, Kanté, and it was pretty sure to at least draw that game, and it may be enough to beat on the last game Poland and go through with the first rank.
You like Dembele's performance.
Yeah, you're making very frustrated noises throughout the game, Don.
Rated. I think, obviously, when Kylian Mbappe plays, it's not just what he does for the French, he affects the opposition. So Denzel Dumfries, the right back today, realised that he was playing up against Rabiot, who's a midfield player. So the Dutch sort of grew into the game. Once they problem solved and once they looked at the French tactics, they realised if Dumfries bombs on, he was getting forward an awful lot in around the hour mark. There was joy for them. Mbappe takes them all the way back. Mbappe stands wide left. He doesn't track back. So therefore, he would probably pin Denzel Dumfries back into his position. But Dembele today, after watching like Yamal and watching Nico Williams be so good and so direct and so aggressive, he was way off it today. He was so frustrating.
I'll give it to the French, though. As a general rule of thumb in recent years, what they've done is a lot of times they haven't played particularly well, but they've grown into tournaments.
Right.
And that's what
I like that your graphic.
Well, in case anybody doesn't know, I'm giving the trajectory rather than the Scottish trajectory, like off the cliff, like full enough. But and they've done that well, and I suppose that's not a bad trait to have. But if you compare what we witnessed yesterday,
yes,
I think if Spain had been playing Holland today, I think we'd have been, they might not have got a barrel load of goals, but I think Holland would not have had the same sort of possession that Spain would have dominated the game, outpassed them, outplayed them, blah, blah, blah. But the French do grow into things, and they did at the World Cups, and they've done it before. They're not, and I've said this all along, and I said it a week ago, they don't get hung up about entertainment and outplaying people at international level. It's all about results at the end of the day. And that's what Deschamps will be judged on. Of course, Mbappe will make a difference. He looked as if he was bright as a button on the bench. He didn't look as if he was struggling. So expect that little sabbatical to be over very soon. But yeah, there are some frustrating players on the French side. But ultimately, they just see the end game, which is lifting the trophy.
Frank, do you agree we're going to see traditional France growing into a tournament as it goes on?
Yeah, that's I'm 100% sure. I mean, Didier Deschamps is typically the kind of a coach who doesn't care to entertain people. He wants results. Sorry, he played in Italy. Always talked about that. Even when he was a player, he was talking about being strong defensively and scoring one goal more than the others. That's it. 1-0 was enough. That's really Italian at the time, and that's what he does with all the team that he was in charge of. He is very efficient. The way he wants to get the result is not entertaining. That doesn't care. So you sometimes have something fantastic from him, Dembele, Mbappe, Griezmann, whoever, but that's not part of Deschamps' details, I would say.
Would you like to change your pick? So who's going to win it all?
Who was your pick?
France.
France? But the most people.
No, I don't think I will, because
England?
yeah, Scotland. No, I just think when I watched the French, we were trying to predict the scoreline today, and I never get the feeling that this French side are going to blow someone away 4 or 5-0. I don't see it in them.
Right.
Because I agree with Craig and Frank. I think the end game for them is winning 1-0 and getting the job done, or 2-0. I don't think you'll see them go and smash someone. So no, I'm not going far away from it. The team that I've been impressed the most has been Spain.
It's going to be interesting in the final round of matches. As I mentioned, it's not all done and dusted. We know for sure, though, Poland are out. They failed, of course, to gain a single point from their opening 2 matches. Austria would beat them 3-1 today in the earlier game to put them very much still in the hunt to go through, Frank. Obviously, Austria against the Dutch is going to be interesting, and Austria showed that they've got some fight today.
Yeah, even if they struggle just before the end of the first half, and where I find that Poland was doing better than them, I think that they have something special, and with their coach, they can change the tactic, they can change the pace of their game, and they still have player like Baumgartner, who scored I don't want to make a mistake, the third, or I don't know, but I think some players are very accurate, and they can do something very special. So it's a big danger for the Netherlands, but I still put the Netherlands finishing second. But I think Austria, I don't know if Austria they get a draw, if they can go through. Well, it's going to be hard for them. So, but still, yeah, go on.
Sorry, Frank, I thought you were finished. And I really had nothing interesting to say.
Well, that's not first.
Apart from when you look at some of the players.
I was going
to
to dive in and try and paint something rosy over that graphic, and then I thought, why bother?
There you go. Don?
Well, apart from when you look at the graphic, they've got some talented players. They're not going to scare anyone, Austria, but they're a decent side, hard-working side.
And obviously they're going to put up a fight against the Dutch, but you've still got the Dutch and French to go through.
I think so, yeah, I think they'll manage the game.
Poland then out. Austria still very much a fighter's chance of making it through to the knockout stages. Just a reminder, extra time, as always, available over on our YouTube channel. Alex Xhaka single-handedly taking it on yesterday.
Art.
It's an interesting takes from Xhaka. When I say interesting, I mean silly. Meanwhile, we saw Copa America kick off, didn't we, last night? Argentina in action against Canada. A thoroughly entertaining match, this. Alvarez would open the scoring 4 minutes into the second half. Then a nice assist from Messi would find Martinez to guarantee an opening victory for Argentina. There in attendance for us was Alex Kirkland. Ali Moreno, who you may have seen before, joins us now as well from our LA studio. Ali, this was a fun game. Maybe not fun if you're an Argentina fan.
More stressful than it needed to be for Argentina. And I think you got to give credit to Canada in the approach that they had in the game. I think most teams opening a tournament of this magnitude against Argentina, the World Cup champions, they would just sit back and absorb pressure and maybe go on the counter, maybe create a set piece, and perhaps you run into a goal that way. And Canada with Deschamps, what they decided to do is very much like Saudi Arabia in the World Cup. We're going to play a high line and we're going to try to test Argentina and really force Argentina to say, let's play the ball over the top. Let's see if indeed you're fast enough or good enough to run in behind. And why is Canada able to do that? Well, because they have in Alphonso Davies, a guy who with speed can recover into that space. And so the gamble of Canada was, we're going to press higher up the field. We're going to have a high line. We're going to make the field shorter. And hopefully Argentina don't get in behind. Well, Argentina did get in behind. Many times, and there were chances for Angel Di Maria, there were chances for Lionel Messi, chances for Julian Alvarez, and somehow they couldn't quite get it right. because they couldn't get it right in those 1v1 situations and counter-attacking opportunities or exploiting that spacing behind, then the game became a whole lot more stressful, and it forced Argentina to defend. And what we saw is that Argentina, when forced to defend, they had issues. And I mean real issues. Emi Martinez had to come up with save. There was a header by Eustaquio inside the 6-yard box from my counter range in the first half, towards the end of the first half. That should have been a goal for Canada. It was not. Canada did not take advantage of the opportunities that they had in front of them. And in the end, the quality of Argentina and the quality of Lionel Messi took over. Because even though he struggled in front of goal, he still had so many little touches that broke the play open for Argentina in the attack. And eventually, he provides the passes in behind that create the goals for Argentina. Argentina win it 2-0. And even though it was stressful, I think you take the points. And if you're Argentina, you build from this.
Alex, what was audible? We're watching it on TV, and I'm sure you found it the same in the stadium. Every time he got the ball, every time Lionel Messi was anywhere near the ball, you could just hear the expectations rise.
It was the case even before kickoff. The first big cheer of the night was about an hour and a half before kickoff. Huge cheer went up. Nothing was happening on the pitch. And it was because Messi had just walked into the stadium, was being shown on the big screen. And that went on right the way through the night. That happened when he walked out for the warm-up, when he started shooting in shooting practice in the warm-up. And then, like you say, every time he got the ball, it was all about Messi, even on a night which in many ways was kind of an average Messi game, because as Ali says, he missed at least 2 one-on-ones in the second half that he really should have scored and didn't. He still created, I think, 5 big chances in the game. He still played the key role in the 2 goals, 1 assist and 1 kind of pre-assist for the first goal. So it was absolutely spectacular from Messi, even while being quite ordinary by Messi standards at the same time. We know this Argentina team isn't all about Messi anymore, and part of their success in the last few years has been sort of building a proper team around Messi. So it isn't just relying entirely on Messi, but it's still the Messi show to a large extent, yeah.
What was interesting, though, were the comments after the game from a lot of different players, Ali, was the fact that nobody seemed to be happy with the pitch. Am I right in thinking that grass was planted over the turf just 2 days ago?
Yeah, well, and that has been the case when playing international tournaments here in the United States in these big football stadiums in which they usually have artificial grass. And when you have artificial grass and now you have to sort of lay the sod over that, it just doesn't quite have the same feeling. And one of the concerns when I had to go through this as a player is the seams of laying the turf and how those seams sometimes are noticeable. And they were noticeable yesterday. And the bounce of the ball is not quite the same. The ball doesn't quite carry the same weight on the grass. Even though it's natural grass, it plays differently. And so, yeah, I can see why players would be complaining about this. And I can also tell you that while every time that Lionel Messi touched the ball, the stadium was going crazy, there were moments in this game in which there were lulls inside the stadium. And those lulls sort of had to do with the fact that a lot of the people that are attending these games, they're there for one reason and one reason only. And that is Lionel Messi and the Lionel Messi effect. And we are seeing it in Major League Soccer as well. And it's sort of like if Lionel Messi is not participating in the play, all of a sudden, this doesn't quite have the feel of the international competition that it should, even though the stadium is packed. But these lulls are, I think, dependent upon whether Messi's touching the ball or not. If he's touching it, the stadium is going crazy. If he's not touching it, then people are like, well, let's go get some popcorn and nachos.
Alex, just returning to the pitch, did you see problems there?
Well, it's funny, one of those things where we were sitting up in the press box, which is quite high up in the huge arena that is the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It wasn't as obvious as obviously it was for the players' pitch side. What you can see, obviously, is that it affects kind of the rhythm of the passing. And if you're a team like Argentina that wants to dominate possession and wants to keep the ball moving at a certain speed, that's problematic. And the players, certainly, they're all unhappy. Scaloni talked about it. Dibu Martinez talked about it. A number of Argentina players talked about it. But where we were in the press box, it wasn't as obvious as it seemed to be to them, as we heard from them in the press conference and the mix zone after the game. No.
Well, Copa America, of course, continues. Ali, enjoy your time on the West Coast, hanging out with Seb and Shaka. What could possibly go wrong? Just a reminder, this is how things stand after the opening game. Argentina, of course, top with that win. Tonight sees Peru take on Chile, and live at the full-time whistle of that game, it is Football Americas that will be with you every day, of course, following every match in Copa America. That'll be streaming live on ESPN+. Oh, they are loving it in Spain, and why not after that brilliant win against Italy? Spain is a party, is a nice way to sum it up. Of course, celebrations in Spain, watching it on the TV, and celebrations on the pitch as well. Alex remains with us. Frank Leboeuf as well. Frank, we talked about yesterday how impressive this Spain side were.
They are very much impressive, and for me, the best example is Cucurella. I mean, Cucurella is a different guy. I mean, I think it's his twin brother who plays for Chelsea, because he's perfect. Everything he does defensively is accurate. Everything he does offensively is very well thought. And I was very impressed. I like everything I saw yesterday. The way they talk, the way they play together, the way they think the game together. My only concern, I will say, is maybe the fact that they were going to struggle scoring goals if they don't have a Nico Williams at the top like yesterday, because I don't think that Morata is the player that who can make the difference for Spain. Let's say like that. Lamine Yamal is fantastic, but as much as we're going to go to games, I think it's going to be fighting against bigger defenders. So it's going to be trickier for him. But the front line, except Nico Williams, is too fragile for me to expect them to win the tournament. Otherwise, mentally-wise, spirit-wise, tactically-wise, it's impressive. It's very much impressive.
Didn't Spain get carried away at the World Cup?
Yes. Yeah, they won their opening game 7-0, didn't they, against Costa Rica?
A couple of years ago.
Yeah, and then in the end, they obviously lost against Morocco.
I mean, don't get me wrong, we all sat here yesterday and pulled at the performance, which was great. But then you peel it back a little bit. Croatia, ageing side.
Oh, no, are you raining on this Spain parade?
Well, I'm seeing all those newspapers and I'm going, right, you know, there's a lot. By the
It
way,
can't be doom and gloom the way they played yesterday.
Don, it's a long way to Tipperary, right?
It's a long way to go.
They played against
I mean, that
Italy. Have you seen
XG
It's a
Italy
long
playing?
way to
Really?
Tipperary. All I'm saying is, no, I get it. The performance yesterday was the best in the tournament I've seen by far. But let's not get carried away, right? There are bigger fish to fry than Croatia and their current guys and this Italian team.
But they tore Italy to shreds.
This Italian team are not the best, right? They're not the best. All I'm saying is Spain look very good, but we have seen this movie before with them, and then they meet their match and they get a spanking.
The weakness is the two centre-backs and the goalkeeper. Apart from that, you're looking at three boys in midfield who absolutely ran the show. Pedri's can take players on. He's effective. He gets the ball out wide to Yamal, so they play the game properly. Rodri's the best number 6 in world football, has been for about 5 years and still be in another 5 years. He's that good. And Ruiz is brilliant. We talked about Nico Williams. I mean, the XG there was 2. They should have been 2-0 up in the first 5 minutes. Pedri missed a sitter. Nico Williams, I think it was, missed a sitter with a header. Second half, Yamal bends one into the stanchion, is an inch away. Yeah. Nico Williams cuts in from the left-hand side, hits the crossbar. It was a mauling.
Yeah, but can they play like that every game?
But that's their identity. So they can.
Listen, you said it. We were watching the game, you went, how did Scotland beat them in the qualifiers?
Right.
But they did.
True.
They did. Not in Spain. Where was it? I think the game was in Scotland. I remember the game in Spain. It was a controversial offside sort of goal. But if Scotland can beat them in a one-off game in a qualifier, then we cannot get carried away with this, well, the Croatia performance, but more so yesterday's performance. Because that's the movie that they've played before, Spain. And then they couldn't go over the line against Morocco at the World Cup. And so as good as it was, they're going to have to replicate that and some when it gets to the knockout stages. It was good, but there is a long, long way to go. It feels a little bit like we're saying nobody's going to beat this Spanish side.
Right.
And I don't think that's the case.
Frank, you've been making a lot of noises.
No, because I agree with Craig. I think we shouldn't be carried away by the performances that they had. And Italy, they are so far away from what I've seen over decades with Italy. They were nowhere near it yesterday. I mean, that's unbelievable. I didn't recognize the country that has brought so much for football. It's so far away from there. Offensively, they had nothing. Defensively, they made so many mistakes. Yeah, Spain played well, but the 2 games that they had brings me positive thought about what they can do. But I have to wait until they play against a very strong team like England, like Portugal, like maybe Germany or like France to really rank them. Well, you know, they're going to get better. I just want to say that.
You have to troll me from over there.
I want to say that
in that group, they'll be rock bottom.
I want to say that for Don.
Italy.
There is Dan
Dear
next to you.
heavens.
I want to be nice to Dan. Yeah, that's why.
Alex, obviously, as Craig says, we've kind of seen this before from Spain, who start a tournament on fire and then it kind of peters out. Is there any concern we could see it again?
Yeah, there are reasons to be optimistic for sure, but let's see. I think 2 potential scenarios. Let's see how Spain deal with those. One would be going up against a really good team, as Frank says. You know, let's say would be against a really defensive team, a team that sit back, a team that sit very, very deep and just defend. Let's see who they get in the last 16, for example, and how they get on against them. So let's see how this Spain get on against either a really good team if they get as far as the quarterfinals, or a really defensive team that they might get in the round of 16. Those 2 scenarios, I think, will tell us a lot about exactly how far this Spain team can go. Because yes, they've got a lot of talent. Yes, they've got some solutions they haven't necessarily had in the past, like Lamine Yamal and like Nico Williams. But equally, they might well fall victim to some of the same familiar weaknesses we've seen from Spain in the past, in terms of having lots of possession, not being able to break teams down, not being able to finish off chances. So there are reasons to be optimistic, for sure. But like I say, let's see how they get on against either a really good team or a really, really defensive, so-called weaker team. And that will tell us a lot more, I think.
Did you see that? Did you see that?
I'm struggling here.
No. Did you see that, though? Alex's internet went. Because you have all these internet problems when you're back in London.
Hey.
Alex's internet went, but he soldiered on through it.
Straight
And
back on it.
he came back out the other side. He didn't sit there and go, oh, my TVU's not working.
Mine would have collapsed.
Yours would have collapsed, yeah.
What you not get?
I tell you what I'm not getting.
What you not get?
I tell you what I'm not getting. England have been dire the last couple of games.
Yep.
And we've said they've been dire.
Yeah.
Right? Spain have been brilliant, but you're like, oh, well, let's just dampen it a little bit. Let's just not get carried away. Just watch the 2 games that you saw. And
have you got amnesia? We sat here yesterday and absolutely pubbed about the performance. All I'm saying is 24 hours later, I think we need to take stock. We're not analysing Spain's performance today. We're analysing the bigger picture. The performance was fantastic.
But you second guess what might happen. You're trying to look into the future going, oh, there's a problem here. Let's get carried away.
You may have noticed, I don't know if you have, that's kind of part of the job.
No, the part of the job. No.
I'm now sort of looking.
No.
Do you want me to sit here, every day and go, hey,
No.
by the way, I'm talking about nothing else today.
No.
Spain are brilliant.
No, part of the job is watching Spain over the last 2 days, last couple of games, and having a look and going, how good are they, by the way?
Which is what we said yesterday. And now I'm saying, this is great, but where are the flaws if they're not going to win this? They started the World Cup like a house on fire. And then they faced, as Alex said, a defensive team in Morocco, and they couldn't break.
But this feels like a different Spain. The Spain over the last years have bored you to death by a million passes. Didn't go anywhere. You watch Spain now, that identity is different.
They've got
two flying wingers who can take players on.
They got no pressure at all yesterday on that back line. The Croatia game and the Italy game more so. The weak issue of the Spain team is the 2 centre-backs. And you can maybe say Cucurella, but he's actually played okay. And Carvajal on the other side is absolutely brilliant.
Italy had Di Lorenzo and Di Marco are very, very good defenders. They got roasted.
Right. But what I'm saying is, when Spain faced the wrath of a better side, we really haven't seen the 2 centre-halves, one of them who's playing in Saudi Arabia and hates it over there, right? We haven't seen them tested. There are flaws to this Spanish side that have not been tested in this competition thus far. Yesterday, I think it was right to say, absolutely brilliant. However, I'm not going to sit here every day and just eulogise about Spain until they prove me wrong.
Alex, obviously, for those who don't follow the La Liga, it was the first time they would have seen Nico Williams and that sort of performance, which we've seen, obviously, with our Athletic Club over the seasons. Is there any chance that this could be kind of a shop window for him going forward this summer?
I mean, it's definitely getting him a level of attention and a level of interest and excitement that he just hasn't been getting. That's the reality, playing for Athletic Club in Bilbao. He's such an exciting player. He's such a huge talent. We see that every week in La Liga, but certainly non-La Liga watchers are now getting a look at this guy and thinking, wow, how much fun is this player? How good is he on the ball? How unpredictable is he? So yes, of course it is a short window. He's got quite a tempting release clause for a player of his age and his quality as well, around about 50 million euros. And so of course all the big clubs will be looking at him. You never want to form judgments on players based on just a tournament. What we can say is, because we watch a lot of him in La Liga, is that he is the real deal. He is a player who is as exciting as he looks in this Euros. In terms of Spain, it's kind of actual tournaments sort of make quite sweeping judgments based on limited evidence of what we've seen in their games so far. And it's tempting to do that, and you shouldn't always do that. But so let's get a bit more evidence on Spain before we make those judgments. But Nico Williams, for sure, very, very exciting, and he is getting the attention he deserves now.
50 million euro buyout. Incoming 300 from Chelsea.
Producers having palpitations.
Incoming 300 million from Chelsea.
Producers having a meltdown about internet, fibre optic cables and all that.
Alex, no, I was going to let Alex go on, Frank.
Dan, if I can... Yeah, two things I didn't like about Craig's comment, and John's comment. First, the only two players that he criticized for Spain are two French players, the two centre backs. So there's a lot about Craig hating the French. And we are done criticizing England drawing against the almighty Denmark, where we all know that they are my favorite. So you have to stop that, guys, because you don't know what's going to happen during that tournament, and England might wake up because of that draw.
What's happened to this show? What's happened?
Shall we talk about England's prospects in this tournament, or shan't we bother because that's not part of the job? Or shall we say,
Alex will say thank you very much, Stu, mate. Just a reminder of the second leg of the playoff final in La Segunda with a place in La Liga.
Is there any chance they're going to finish this?
It will be finished on Sunday. We promise you that game live, 12:30 Eastern on ESPN+.
Dear me. Nearly winter.
Here we go then, England again. They only managed, of course, a 1-1 draw against Denmark. They were shocking. They're still top of the group. They should be still fine to advance. Let's take a look at how the UK newspapers, Sleeping Lions, Harry Kane, tame old story, laboured and conservative. Just some of the derogatory headlines that we saw throughout in the UK.
They're talking about, there is some talk, and it's not going to happen, but there is even people pushing to say, listen, I think I'd rather have a different option than Harry Kane.
I'm going to say Gareth Southgate for a moment. I thought we were going to go Ivory Coast.
I think there's a lot of people saying that, but there are players. Before we go to Augie, he's waiting. Hopefully, he's got a good internet connection. Who the hell knows? There are several players that would be big name players, superstars in that team, who after 2 games you could say, you know what, I could leave him out, and I could leave him out, and I could leave him out. But I don't think he's going to do it. I don't always think it'd be the right thing to do. But 2, I don't think Gareth Southgate's got the gumption to actually make those decisions.
As Craig mentioned, Mark Ogden is a bit of a floating head, Mark, today, out in Germany. Mark, overall, what has struck you in particular from the way the media have reacted to what we saw against Denmark?
Well, it's been negative, but I think it's been fair because the performance was terrible. And I think there's been 1 or 2 excuses being levelled around the situation whereby the roof was closed, so it was hot. It was a bit hotter than people expected in the ground yesterday. The pitch wasn't very good, but ultimately, as Craig said, the big players, I think Kane, Bellingham, Alexander-Arnold and Foden, they're the big 4 that didn't perform, haven't performed. And I think at least 2 have to be dropped. I don't think he'll drop Kane. I don't think he'll drop Bellingham. But Kane is a concern because Kane is struggling. Fitness-wise, Southgate said after the game that he took him off because he's not had a lot of time recently. He's not had a full 90 minutes for the last 6 weeks because he had a back injury going into the tournament. But, there's 1 or 2 stories coming out tonight about just talking about Kane's pressing and how his pressing isn't as intense as it should be. Most players press more intensely with the last couple of paces. He tends to tone it down a bit. So there's quite a bit of detailing that's doing the rounds tonight. So you do wonder whether things have been put out there just to kind of paint the picture of what they need more from Harry Kane. You can't drop Harry Kane, he's the leading goal scorer, but I think they have to find a way to make him more effective and put more pace into the team. But first of all, I think he's got to take Foden out of the side, bring Anthony Gordon in maybe, and just got to lance the ball with Alexander-Arnold because it's not working. You've got a right back playing in a position that he's not used to. You've got Jude Bellingham, who's a midfielder, but he's not tracking back. So you've got Declan Rice that's basically manning the ship on his own. So they're going to get overrun by a really good team, and Slovenia are a really good team, but they're technically enough to give England problems on Tuesday. So, yeah, big problems ahead. And I think Southgate, as Craig said, I don't think he's got the courage to actually make the biggest calls possible. I think he's going to fudge it.
Foden was the best player in the Premier League this season. Why is he
was one of the best?
Why is he the fall guy? Why is Foden the one that has to be cut? Why does he have to be
Who said he had to be cut?
Mark suggested that he could be the one that makes
first
way.
and foremost, he's playing in a position, or he's starting off in a position that he really doesn't do for his club, right? On the left-hand side.
Mm-hmm.
He either starts on the right or he starts as a 10 or a false 9 for Man City, right? And that's why we've seen the best of him. We haven't seen the best of Bellingham. Don was telling me Rice got a 2 out of 10 in one of the English newspapers. It was a bit harsh, but he didn't play well. These are all players that were brilliant last season. To go back to Mark's point about Harry Kane, he has looked off the pace. But England shouldn't need to press. Well, no. Every now and again you need to press. But they shouldn't need to press for 90 minutes against Serbia and Denmark. Do you know why? Because they should dominate possession against these weaker international teams. They should have the ball, they should be throttling them, they should be pinning Denmark back, and then they should be releasing their fullbacks. The centre-half should be stepping out with the ball, and they should be trying to break them down. That's not been the case. England have been a team that, as games have worn on, they have sat deep. They have sat deep, and that's got nothing to do with a striker not pressing. That's got everything to do with giving up territory and not dominating. There's no excuse for me not to dominate weaker opposition. You can go into any game, right? Be an FA Cup, be a knockout tournament, be Champions League, and you can play a weaker team, but you can dominate them and you can have a bad day at the office in the final third. And they defend well, the keeper plays great, you're sloppy with your decision-making, but you dominate the game and you put them under pressure. England have not done that against weaker opposition.
See, when you simplify it, right, and if you go to Southgate and you look at the individuals that you've got, I think England are crying out for a system 4-4-2. He won't play it because it sounds a bit dinosaur. But when you look at the players and the individuals, why wouldn't you steal a copy of what Guardiola's doing? So the best right side in English football last season was Kyle Walker and Phil Foden. There's your first two relationships on a bit of paper. Foden, Walker. Other side, Trippier, Gordon, both played together at Newcastle. There's your relationship straight away, but go to a 4-4-2. You've got Bellingham, who play off Harry Kane, ideal. One who can run him behind, one who's super fit, one who's very clever in Harry Kane when he comes short. Play Adam Wharton, who's a left-footed midfield player, on the left. So when you look at England on paper and you go...
So we're dropping Saka?
Or play Saka. But I would say Phil Foden.
You can only play 11
Phil
players.
Foden.
No, but you've just talked about your
Yes, exactly that. But what I'm saying is, when you look at England's balance and you go Kieran Trippier at left back and you go into midfield, two right-footed players, why wouldn't you play Wharton on the left of two alongside Declan Rice? He adds balance. He's a lefty. So all of a sudden you've got Kieran Trippier, you've got Adam Wharton, who's a lefty in midfield, you've got Anthony Gordon, who wants to run. But my worry is that I think Southgate's a little bit afraid when he looks at the individuals that he's got. They are crying out to be a 4-4-2 side. But everyone around the world will go, oh, no, we've got to play 4-2-3-1, or we've got to do what Spain does and play 4-3-3. That's not what England should be doing. They should be aggressive.
When Southgate gets to the big knockout game, and they'll beat Slovenia, or certainly get a result, but they'll probably beat them. To go back to that sort of analysis, if he thinks Phil Foden is going to be the best for England off the right-hand side, coming in on that left foot and drifting and letting Walker go down the outside, as they do, as Don rightly said, at Man City, then he's got to say to himself, OK, it's one or the other. It's Foden or Saka. And who's the better player? And the better player for me, and so I think Saka's a terrific player, but I think Foden's a better player. That's big decision-making.
Yeah.
And then he has to figure out the rest. At the moment, right, let's be honest about it, at the moment, he's shoehorning 2 or 3 players in, Trent Alexander-Arnold being one of them, but he's shoehorning them in. Well, I want to play Phil Foden because I don't play Phil Foden because Saka plays on the right. If I don't play Foden, they'll kill me in the press because Foden was absolutely brilliant, but so was Saka for Arsenal. So I'm going to have to... Oh, I don't want to upset anybody. He's going to get smashed, Gareth Southgate. So he's got some big decisions. Nobody has played well enough in that England team that they could complain if he said to them, you're not playing today. It's international football. It's European Championships. You haven't enough for me. You're not playing today. Come off the bench. If I need you, prove to me I was wrong to drop you. That's what he's going to have to do.
Everyone was intrigued as to what Gareth Southgate was going to say after that draw against Denmark. I don't think many would have thought that Calvin Phillips would have been the reason that England performed so badly, Mark. What's he doing? He said basically we haven't filled the void left by Calvin Phillips, who, by the way, he chose not to play, and a player who couldn't even get into West Ham starting 11.
Yeah, he did make the point afterwards that Phillips wasn't able to pick because he wasn't playing for West Ham. So the point he was making was that he felt that Calvin Phillips and Declan Rice were a perfect combination at the last Euros, and that double act hasn't really been there for the last 12 months because Calvin Phillips hasn't played for Man City, and then he didn't really play for West Ham. So I think the point he was making was he hasn't got a player that replicates what Calvin Phillips did. But I'm with Don. I think you bring in Adam Wharton to the picture and just you give more balance. But there's an alternate solution with Saka, because when Saka broke into the England team, he played him as a left wing back because he didn't have a left-sided defender. Well, he's not got one at the moment because Luke Shaw says doesn't fit. So you could actually put Saka on the left and put Foden on the right and then deal with it that way. But I just don't know what he wants to do. I don't think he knows. And there was a really strange kind of, almost like, it was asked a couple of times after the game, are the players dealing with the pressure playing for England? And it hinted that they weren't. He said things like that, we've got to get used to the challenge we face. I have to walk towards the challenge. We have to walk towards the challenge. It was almost like he was reading from a kind of a motivation manual. And I'm not sure if you're an England player, the message that he's giving out right now is what you want to hear. He's a little bit downbeat. There's something that's lacking there. He's not a motivator. And I think you want some positivity. You want some kind of, you want a belief in the manager. And Southgate, for me right now, just sounds like a guy that doesn't know what he wants to do, isn't really happy doing what he's doing. He doesn't look like he's enjoying the job. And it reflects on the players. It looks kind of a bit of a miserable camp at the moment.
I can't imagine how many people in the England 11 are really verbal. They look like a quiet team.
Well, Bellingham, we know, is definitely verbal.
One.
Harry Kane has got to be verbal.
I don't think he is.
Leader.
No, I don't think he is.
I think that's unfair, isn't it? I think we've seen...
verbal. I think he's a leader by example. I don't think, like, you watched the game the other day.
I think you watch him in a Spurs show, you watch it in Verbaim as well.
Where's he shouting at his players and dragging them further up the pitch? I look at the England team seriously, and I think how many leaders are out there? They lead because they play well, but verbally, who's giving instructions? Me and Craig played together, and we were getting roasted for 10, 15 minutes. He would to me, right, stop running forward, stand next to me for 5 minutes, just before half-time, don't move, right? And then I might drag a right side, I might get you, Dan, and go, right, stop bombing on there, Dan. Come in here for 5 minutes.
It's always my problem.
I know. Come in here for 5 minutes. So verbally, you can affect the game of football by the most basic thing. That's talking with each other. I look at the England team, and they're very, very talented. I don't know where the communication is.
Yeah, you've got a lot of...
There's not many, though.
I think we've already named 4.
Yeah, but just because... One second.
But I didn't agree with Kane.
But 1 second. I've known a lot of experienced players that have played 300 and 400 games for their clubs and 40, 50 games for their country and wouldn't say boo to a goose. Some people are not like that, but one thing I've noticed in particular with Jude Bellingham, who is a superstar, is he's getting frustrated. He's getting frustrated with the quality of England's play. He's getting frustrated that any runs he's making, he's not seeing the ball. He obviously got a great goal in the opening match when he bust in with a perfectly timed run, and that's kind of been it. He spent a lot of games in what should be a good England side tracking back into full-back areas, and that's fine. Midfielders have to do that.
We talked about Conor Gallagher yesterday.
Against teams like that.
We talked about Conor Gallagher. You know what he's going to do. He's going to run around as fast as he can. He's going to get booked. The last 20 minutes, he had to pull out 3 tackles because he couldn't make a tackle. And how Cole Palmer is sitting on that bench, who's a maverick, right? He would sack off positions. If Gareth Southgate told him to do something, just because he's a maverick, he can't do it. That's what England need.
If you're going to take Kobe Mino and Adam Wharton to a major championship, and that's a big call for kids, youngsters going in with very little experience. We've seen these scenarios. But if you're going to take them and you're doubting yourself about using them, you might as well have taken Phillips and Jordan Henderson. As bad as Phillips has been and Henderson's playing in Holland now, if you've got a doubt in your mind about putting them in, right, don't take them. Don't take them. Well, it's pointless. It's not a friendly. And the other night was super safe, Gallagher. It was the same substitution he made against Serbia, and it was super safe. A guy comes up, well, I say it's super safe. He's a loose cannon, so it's not. But he's going to come in, he's got a bit of experience, he'll run around and make a tackle. Rather than bringing in, I would have said Wharton over Mino, because he's technically got a lovely left foot. But he didn't do it. And if he doesn't use these youngsters, and they're not playing better, and they go out of this tournament, you have to ask yourself the question, what the hell was the point bringing them if you're frightened to use them?
See, normally in tournament football, you can say, oh, it's a risk playing young footballers. It is a risk. This Euros has proved Youth is the way forward. Yamal, 16. Florian Wirtz. All the most exciting players that we've watched so far are young. So if it is your last tournament football, if you're Southgate, put Wharton in. Take a chance on Cole Palmer. Play some youth.
Well, for Gareth Southgate, of course, the thoughts that he is awaiting in the shadows for Ten Hag to fail and then take over at Manchester United. Fans will be excited about that. So Jim Ratcliffe has been talking to Bloomberg, saying, I don't think the solution is to buy an Mbappe. One player is not going to solve the problem at Manchester United. It will take 2 or 3 summer windows to get a better place. Since the day that Sir Alex Ferguson and former United Chief Executive David Gill retired 11 seasons ago, the net spend on players at United is £1.1 billion. And at Real Madrid, rather surprisingly, it's £200 million. Real Madrid have 7 players that are valued at over €100 million. United do not have any players over 70 million or 80 million. Real Madrid have got a better squad and have managed to rebuild the Bernabeu. And we've got, you probably saw the headline, the 3rd highest waterfall in Britain.
These are, by the way, I don't, Ineos are obviously great business people. So Jim Ratcliffe, people that he surrounds himself with, they made billions. They're spending well over £1 billion in Man United. And I think it's safe to say the Glazers in the end taking big dividends out of the club and, you know, increasing the debt. In a football parlance, they were pretty clueless. I'm not suggesting Ineos are clueless, but I think at the moment they're only just a little less clueless than the Glazers.
Right.
Anybody who makes the decision they made and the way they went about it with Ten Hag tells me that they really are scuttling around in the background, making these last-minute decisions. And then anybody that thinks Ineos, well, it's Sir Dave Brailsford who was involved in cycling and all that stuff. What's that got to do with football? What's that got to do with it? He was involved in all these Olympic cycling things and all these other people. They think Gareth Southgate, before this tournament, not because England have played badly for 2 games, before this tournament, everybody, almost everybody, would say, what? That's the man that you want? So it tells me at the moment that Ineos are floundering around, and while they're maybe getting the structure right behind the scenes, and that's to be commended, you know, Dan Ashworth, Jason Wilcox, Omar Barada, all these people coming in and outing all the old guard, that's fine. But some of these other decisions that seem to be coming from near the top are quite baffling. If you think Gareth Southgate's the man to manage one of the biggest football clubs on the planet, and United are, who are struggling, then you're in the wrong job.
Mark, obviously these comments are honest. Are they necessary to be made public?
Well, he's quite good at identifying problems, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, isn't he? But I don't know if he's identified any solutions because, as Craig said, they've got an issue with the manager, but they've kind of not made the decision on that. They've just bottled it a little bit and just kept it going until he has a first bad patch next season. So in some ways, he's kind of playing to the crowd of the fans. The fans like it because he's saying what they think. But you can't say that it's going to take 2 or 3 summer windows. That's 3 years to sort Man United out. Big clubs don't wait that long. United have waited 11 years now. And big clubs that have got it right will find a way to do it in 2 windows, a winter one and a summer one. So, yes, it's refreshing that somebody at United is actually speaking because we've not had that for nearly 20 years with the Glazers. But I do think that it's probably best to speak when you've found a solution rather than just identify the problem. I mean, have they fixed the roof yet? I mean, he talks about the waterfall there, but have they kind of put the roof tiles on? I'm not sure. So there's a lot of things going on right now. Are they going to get a new ground? Are they not going to get a new ground? They've been there for nearly 6 months, and it still feels like we're still waiting for them to actually put their stamp on things. So maybe it's time for a bit more action and less talk.
See, just because you put a lot of money in doesn't mean you know what you're doing. See Chelsea.
No, exactly.
You know
Todd Bowley. Chelsea, of course, are in the hunt for Michael Olise. It looks like, though, they will not get their man. Mark is going to head to Bayern Munich.
Yeah, I mean, that is a surprise, but it's a great move for Olise. And I think Chelsea were keen, Newcastle were keen, Man United were keen on Olise because he had an escape clause in his contract at Palace, which was worth around £50 million. So, that is a good deal to do for a player that has had a great season in the Premier League. So, when you got to Bayern Munich, he's got a great predecessor in Arjen Robben to look to, and I think he's got the kind of same sort of attributes, great left foot, scores goals, free kicks. He'll do well for Bayern Munich, and it's a loss to the Premier League because he was one of the emerging talents of the Premier League, but he's a very good player. Bayern have got a good deal there.
Yeah, great move for Bayern, isn't it?
Great move. Great move for the player as well. Very, very talented. He's brave as well. going playing for Bayern seems like on paper, yeah, it's natural, but to leave England and wanting to play for a Champions League club, a huge club with Vincent Kompany, I think he's very brave, but he's got some talent. He's a wonderful player to watch. He's very graceful.
Not if you're Oliver Glasner, you're not.
No, it's true, isn't it? Yeah.
You got Olise and you got Eze, who's in the England squad, who's another terrific player, and you got young Adam Wharton, who we've talked about, beautiful young midfielder with a great future. You signed him from Blackburn, but you get the opportunity. With all respect, Crystal Palace is a decent Premier League club, but to go to get a move to Bayern Munich is something special.
Just a reminder to keep up to date with all the latest moves as and when they happen. Be sure to go over to our website and check out Transfer Talk. Meanwhile, we saw Slovakia take on Ukraine today in the early game, and it would be a victory for Ukraine to give them their first points. It's going to be a tight group, isn't it, you feel? Of course, Belgium in action tomorrow against Romania. Mark, I think you may well have been the only person on this panel who watched this. They're very busy men.
What game are you talking about?
Exactly. Slovakia, Ukraine.
Oh, the Ukraine game?
Yes.
No, I didn't.
I know you didn't watch it. So, Mark, overall, Ukraine bouncing back after a disappointing performance, obviously, in their first game.
Yeah, I mean, they got hammered by Romania in the first game, and it looked like they're going to get knocked out. They went behind against Slovakia, but there's a real determination about the Ukraine squad for obvious reasons. I was up at the training camp earlier this week, and I spoke to a couple of the players, Brashko and Malinovsky, and you just know that they're here for more than football. And there's an absolute desperation. They both said that they're not only doing it for themselves but for the country, but the massive motivation they've got is for the troops on the front line. That they know that whenever they get a good result, it's a massive morale boost for the troops. And I think at the end of the game, Yaremchuk was in tears today because he was saying the same sort of things. He's got friends on the front line that he knows that goal, that amazing goal that won the game, the kind of the Bergkamp-esque goal that would have brought joy to the troops. So there's a lot more about Ukraine than just football. So I think it's great for the tournament. They've still got a chance to play Belgium, I think, on Tuesday or Wednesday. Mm-hmm. And again, that they can take them through the knockout stage. So they showed real fight today. And I think, yes, they've got a chance to get through. But I think Belgium obviously got a bit of point to prove as well.
Yeah, they most definitely have a point.
Do you think he's at home, Thibaut Courtois, just chuckling away every 5 minutes? Yeah. Or do you think he just read the script as well, went Dominic Tedesco, don't like him, I've had this injury, we have and by the way, Belgium were just pants.
Yeah, they were pants, indeed. And they're looking, of course, not to be pants this weekend as they take on their second match of their campaign.
Well, Don thought they were great.
And there'll be action against Romania, of course, as Mark said, it was so impressive against Ukraine. Meanwhile, also on Saturday as well, Portugal are in their second game as they take on Turkey. What a match that should be. Both teams, of course, coming into this game after winning their opening matches. Don's last day. We'll be here tomorrow to look back at those games.
And because it's so important.
Yes.
You and I are having a day off.
Well, yes, indeed.
You've got the full stage to himself. No games to talk about.
Yeah, be sure to check it out. Meanwhile, NWSL action for you on Sunday as Gotham take on Washington Spirit. That game live on Plus and ESPN. Coverage starts at 1:30 Eastern. That is it then. That brings us to the end of today's show. Frank LeBoeuf will be returning to the show. Craig and Don obviously here as well to answer some of your questions on Extra Time. Welcome in then to the latest edition of Extra Time. Thank you as always for your questions. Let me find them here. They're just there. Do that, press that. For Craig, are these group stages just glorified friendlies? No one seems to be in danger of going out. You can rest your best players and show no ambition, like in Netherlands against France, and still go through.
Well, I don't like the format with the amount of teams they have where some of the third-place teams are going to get through.
Right.
I'm a great believer in you got to get in that top two, or you're gone. And so this is the world we live in now. There's a parachute, it seems, for everybody. We got this European Championships, which of course you had a parachute to get into via the
Nations League,
and all that sort of stuff. So I don't like that scenario, but I do believe, and I'm trying to think off the top of my head, there are some teams that could still be in danger.
Well, Belgium, obviously.
Belgium.
Very much so. You could say the Dutch as well. They've got to take on Austria.
Just bring it in. Just bring it in.
Bring me the questions. All right. Thank you very much.
But yeah, it's not. No, I wouldn't say that. Look, do we all expect the bigger, more elite countries with the history behind it? Do we expect the bulk of them to qualify? Yes, but I think there's been enough entertaining games. We didn't see a particularly good one.
They're not friendlies, are they? When you watch Netherlands, France, Italy, Spain, top class games.
Yeah.
Don, it seems like the two favourites to win the Euros, England and France, are mediocre. Do you think they're just coasting to get out of the group and will turn it around in the knockout stage?
That's exactly what England are doing, aren't they? They're just coasting. No,
I don't know if
terrible.
you're sarcastic about it.
Well, sorry, but now they're terrible. The French have got more gears. Mbappe didn't play today.
His nose looked all right, didn't it?
Yeah, Dembele was way off it.
Very generic thing to say from 3,000 mile away.
Well, that's all right.
But, you know,
They'll get better.
looked okay. He didn't look as if he was.
Frank, what if we haven't heard from you about England?
No. But I'm concerned about England, and I agree with the guys. You know, I think Southgate doesn't take any risks. He listens to what people would love to see and what people have done, ranking some players, and therefore, if you don't play them, you're going to be crucified. I would love to see something else. You know, I saw Trippier's, for example, in so many dangers in the first half because nobody came to help him out for defending because Foden is not in the right positioning for me. Whatever, you know, I wouldn't play Rice alone in the middle of the park defensively. I would play otherwise. But I think, you know, we always England and fans have been carried away by England first games, and they say, wow, you know, football is coming home, you know, everybody's excited, and at the end of the day, nothing happened. So maybe it goes the other way around, where they start the competition being awful, and they're going to get better. You never know how it works, and we'll see. You know, they have the talent to go far, but it's up to Southgate to change some stuff inside the group and mainly some players to play to make it better.
Well, the French did lose the World Cup final.
Yes.
And Argentina, it was a great story. It was all a bit messy in the end, but they were not a brilliant side. It wasn't like the Spain side that dominated around 2008, 10 and 12.
Sure.
It was off the charts. So the French did lose the World Cup final. They were 2-0 down and they had to make changes. The quarterfinal, you know, the Harry Kane penalty, really, they didn't play well. He misses the penalty. They didn't play well in that. So, I might sound slightly hypocritical because I have them and I've had them winning it, but that's kind of because I'm looking at the rest. And maybe Spain will go all the way and continue this, and maybe England will get their act together, and maybe Portugal will, you know, carry on with all the talented players, but they're kind of winning it, not because they're a brilliant side, but because I'm not quite sure about.
He's going to have
the
to
others.
stumble. He's going to have to stumble, Southgate, on a formation.
Craig, as someone who has played both central midfielder and wing back, how big a transition is it for Alexander-Arnold?
Well, I made it the opposite way.
You went from centre mid.
Centre mid was my natural position.
Legs start to go, shift him out wide. That's basically what happens.
But
Your legs start to go.
no, no. Why you're playing wing back? You need more legs because you got.
You don't really, do you? You can stand still and play it, can't you?
Well, somebody. I never saw you even get your backside close to the touchline.
When I went to Sunderland, I played as a right winger, and no pace whatsoever.
One
It's
second.
all about having the brains.
Let me stop you there. You played as a right winger.
Yeah.
28 of my 46 caps came for Scotland at right wing back. That means I never had a winger in front of me or a full back behind me. And I love Colin Calderwood to death, the former Swindon and Tottenham Hotspur centre-half. But Big Colin liked to tuck in and hold the hands of the other centre-half so that he didn't have to come out in the right back area and get exposed. And that meant Moggins had to run the full side.
How can you not be in the Scotland Hall of Fame?
Didn't
with
you
the
once
sacrifices
you
you
once
made?
chuck your toys out the pram when I was in the squad because Bruni asked you to play right wing back?
Don, there is no...
I'm
There's
sure
not-
that happened.
There is not a football pitch in this world or a TV studio that I've ever chucked my toys out the pram.
It happened. I can't remember it, but it happened. You wanted to play centre mid.
I chucked my toys out the pram pretty much every squad that I've met up for. But yeah, the answer to your question is, look, here's the difference. And he's a talented player. Here's the difference. At wing back, your striker's giving you the ball or full back, whatever you want to call it, or you're getting the ball off your centre back or your goalkeeper and you've got the touchline there and you're opening it up and you've got the whole pitch. And you play it back. You play it there or you play it down the channel. When you're playing centre mid, you're getting it from all angles.
Right.
Back to the goal, people pressurising you. You know, it's a different ball game. It's okay getting out your feet with no pressure and playing a 50-yard ball over the top. But the difference is your body position.
Yeah.
When centre halves and full-backs are rolling it into you, and you've got 3 midfielders in there of the opponents and 3 of yours, that's 6 in a very congested area, and all of a sudden you're dealing with a ball coming in with your back to goal. It's a different scenario altogether.
Go on, Frank.
I think as a wing back, you don't have to inform yourself. You see the game, and if you open your body, you're going to see the whole pitch, and you're going to know in front of you what's going to happen. And when you play in the middle of the park, you have to inform yourself many times, you know, turning your head on the right, on the left before touching the ball, because you have to know where your teammates are and where your opponents are. And that's very crucial. And there was a statistic, I think, Arsene Wenger made, where top midfielders would turn their head between 7 and 8 times before receiving the ball. Xavi, fantastic Barcelona player, used to do that, and Guardiola as well, and so many others. They inform themselves. That's crucial in football.
See, the difference with this is Trent Alexander-Arnold never did this at Liverpool. He started it right back. And when the time was right, he'd drift in, he'd get the ball. With England in the first 2 games, he's in there all the time. And that's a completely different scenario. But by the way, I don't think these England performances are anything at all to do with the fact Trent Alexander-Arnold playing in there. It's just a little unnatural for him. I think the problem is a much bigger picture.
When you simplify it, Dan, you play right back.
He must be having a pizza tonight. He's trying to move on.
Yes.
Pizza.
You stand in the right back position. You can see 21 players on the pitch.
Okay.
You stand there. When you go centre mid, I mean, my worst memory was playing against Arsenal, and I was playing as a centre midfield player, and I checked my shoulders, as Frank was saying. Left back's got it, Dave Unsworth. By the time he passes the ball into you and it travels 10 yards, you've checked your shoulders, and I see Vieira 20 yards away on the turn, thinking I can play. He used to eat up the ground like you wouldn't believe and just take the ball off me like I was a baby. And it was just phenomenal, his long stride, and almost like he was setting a trap. Right. Go on, you think you can get that? You get it in turn, wallop.
What should Camavinga actually do to get in the French 11, Frank? Because currently, Rabiot is getting a free pass even after that mammoth season Camavinga had for Madrid.
Nothing much, you know. It's only Deschamps choices, and he has a luxury choice. It's crazy. Tchouaméni, Kanté, Rabiot, Camavinga. I think Camavinga's turn is going to come up, but Camavinga is still very young. He has to be patient. Yeah, he won the Champions League. Yeah, he plays for the best team in the world. But that's a feeling of a coach who spends every day, every hours with the players. And he has a feeling. Who has thought that Kanté would be back from Saudi Arabia and play and be named twice in 2 games man of the match? That's the beauty of football.
Well, not quite at that stage with the French yet, where the parents are going to be almost having fisticuffs.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I mean,
I like those ones.
I would imagine England are. I'd imagine we're kind of getting to that stage with England where mums and dads, and brothers and sisters, and cousins and all that are arguing with each other about who should be playing the team. Do you remember that happened, though?
Yes.
I mean, that was quite scary.
Brilliant.
That's scary.
Frank, how quickly will Chelsea try to re-sign Kanté? Sacré bleu, he's good.
It would cost them too much, even for Bolly. No, I don't think Kanté wants to go back. I think it's. I mean, that's crazy. He shouldn't have left. That's for sure. But that's not part of Bolly and his fellow friend idea of what they want to bring in the future at Chelsea. He was too old for them, so it was time to get rid of him, which was the biggest mistake. They needed, as I always say, experienced players, and Kanté should have stayed and signed for life.
Frank, if you could choose one player from the French team of '98 to play in this team, which would you choose?
Oh, come on.
Easy.
That's easy, Frankie.
Yeah, of course, Zizou. But you know what? I can name so many players who would have fit from '98 perfectly well I think a Marcel Desailly as a centre back instead of Upamecano would have been absolutely fantastic. But you could have named a few.
Okay,
you know,
Frank. Let me turn this on its head, Frank. Would any of the players starting today have got into your 98 starting 11?
Mbappe, for sure.
Yeah, he didn't play today.
Starting.
Griezmann?
No, it's just.
Oh, starting today? No. I think nobody. No, nobody.
No, typical
No chance.
Frank. Fair enough. Typical
I
arrogance.
think if they had one player that could play in this team today, would have been Laurent Blanc.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
He should have played in the final.
Yeah, why didn't he play in the final?
I think he was going to play in the final. It was sabotaged
Yeah,
by Frank Leboeuf paid the referee in the semi-final.
We call that a curse. We call that a curse.
Oh, yeah. How is
The
Prey
goal.
coping with the lack of golf? He must be grumpier than usual. Oh, you played golf?
Played
You
today,
golf
didn't
today, didn't you?
Terrible, wasn't you?
That was supposed to be a secret?
See, our boss may have just had he may have been 50-50 that I watched the...
You admitted you didn't watch the Ukraine game.
I didn't really. I mean, it wouldn't
You
stand up.
did. You said I
wouldn't
didn't
stand-
watch it.
It wouldn't stand up in court.
Played that back. You definitely said
It
it.
wouldn't stand up in court.
Hang on.
And it didn't.
Yeah.
So he may have been on the fence.
Don, you've been gagging for a game, but he's dodged.
Yeah, he's dodged me.
I have to say, I'm not playing as much
Scared, isn't he?
this year. I played a fair bit. I'm not playing as much as usual. I've only played twice this week.
There we go.
Not quite as much. Well, somebody asked a question, and now you're just gonna, nonchalant and moving on.
Right, that's not the golf you played this week. Everyone's fascinated.
Well, the people are asking questions.
Well, yes. Dan invited Frank to his house when he was here. Who is inviting Don for dinner? No one's invited you, Don?
No, I'm going for dinner with Kay tonight.
Oh, there you are. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, lovely. You've dodged me for 12 days.
I would have invited you, but I'm on, and I mean this, and I swear to God, as my house is super busy.
Yes, you got a lot
I've
going
got a
on.
lot
Well, you might as
going-
well add me. It'd be even more chaos.
I've already got one baby in there.
That is it.
I should have actually getting him round and setting the 3 dogs on him.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd have been fun. Do you scare the dogs?
Oh. But I've only got little ones. I had little ones. You got big ones, didn't you?
When are you here, Frank?
Next Friday night. Well, not on the show. Saturday on the show,
Is
but
there
Friday
no good
night.
news?
I'm at West
Well,
Hartford.
Don's leaving.
Burley.
Don's leaving.
And Macca's coming. Macca and Frank.
Oh, Frank. Lovely.
Frank's coming.
Burley,
Don's leaving.
I'm coming.
Where are we?
Burley, I tell you, you will have to attend in one of my dinners because you never came to any of my dinner. And you know, I pay. As a Scottish guy, you would be so happy.
Frank, they're a shambles.
I used to
They're a
go-
shambles, these two.
I used to go out all the time. Just don't
He's a busy man.
cross the mountain now.
Yeah, that's it.
It's
Yeah. That is it. We are done. Thank you very much.
Very
Don's
posh, Will.
final day tomorrow with us here in the studio will be a special one, won't it, Don?
Absolutely.
There
Looking
you
forward
are.
to it. Just
Yeah.
me and Kay.
There you go. Beautiful. Be sure to check it out.
looking out tonight for dinner.
Yeah.
Just you and Kay.
And the husband.